Yeah.
It could be a little bit more than 15. It could be a little bit more. He's got some slides. I mean, it's good stuff. I'm glad he's here.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. He's gonna present something like he did at RUAC, and you'll see what the slides are. They're beautiful, really great stuff.
Where's everybody?
Festival committee.
Right here.
Festival committee.
No, I mean,
Those two are at festival committee up front.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where both those are.
Oh, it's hot in here.
Good evening.
Uh-oh.
We've been having a festival back there.
I asked for it. Yep. I asked for it. I asked her to
How
print
you
them.
want us just to wait maybe a minute
And hand them out.
before we start?
Because it's going to cost us $500 a day. It's a little late. That's so well, I pay. No, not down, not that back page. Right in here. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Well, that's the first one I've seen. I just sent her an email today and asked her for it. I said, why don't you just print that and hand them out?
This here's your phone.
That ought to solve it.
Yeah.
Just, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to wait just a
Maybe.
see if the microphone's open. They sent me.
Oh, well, heck, when I left at 8:30, then heck, everybody was behind me. Oh. Well, that's because of the ball game. That's why everybody's leaving. That's why I left. Oh, no. I went to watch.
Oops, sorry.
I left the banquet and watched what's left of the NC game, and then I watched the Duke game.
Over there.
With some friends, and
We kind of just.
heck, we had a pretty good party night after that.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great. I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. I'm going to talk about it tonight.
Yeah.
Here in
Could
comments.
be.
That purchase of one work.
It's a shame. I served on there in 2 different terms. Both
Do I have an extra agenda?
Mike served on there too.
I have it.
He
Nope,
served
I got
there
it.
on
Thank
the
you.
board.
Got it.
And I just feel that
Mike shows us what to do on behalf of the firm.
we need to have a better relationship. We should.
Ready? We're going to start. We're
I'm
going to
going to say that tonight.
At this time, I'd like to welcome you to our regular meeting. I'm so thankful that all of you took the time to come out this evening. Would ask that our Finance Director, Mr. Drew Holland, is going to lead us in our invocation. It'll be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. If you will, all please rise.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this evening that we can gather here to conduct a town business. Guide our speech, our thoughts, and our actions tonight so better the town of Hope Mills. And we do all this in your name. And again, bless this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, do we have any additions or deletions from our agenda?
Madam Mayor, just got one addition under old business. If we could just get a talk to our town attorney, Dan Hartzog, about just giving us an update on the internal investigation. Just a quick update. That's fine. Just so we know where we're at.
All right, so that would be item B, and that would be an update on the investigation.
Other than that, make a motion to approve if nobody else has anything.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. At this time, I have a special presentation. And this is the time where we recognize our Volunteer of the Month. And this This gentleman has volunteered 286 hours with Hope Mills CERT last year. He also helped with bingo at the VA nursing home. He helped feed at the Hope House, and he does the neighborhood community watch. We're very excited that we can recognize our volunteer of the month, and it's Mr. Gregory Dickerson. If he'll come forward so I can present him with his certificate. We appreciate everything that you do for Hope Mills, and let's try so they can get a picture of it.
I hope it's working. Is the operator?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. He's not here yet?
He is.
Yes, he is
Yep.
here. All right.
Yep.
I see him back
Okay.
there. We have with us this evening, and I'm going to let Miss Adams actually do the formal introduction, but we're very excited. We've got a new member of our staff here this evening to introduce to you, and I'm going to turn it over to Miss Adams to make those introductions.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Tonight I'm very honored to welcome aboard, and I hope that you all will welcome our new Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Lamarco Morrison. And I'm going to read a little information about him, a little bio information for you all, and then please give him a warm welcome, and I'll have him stand when I get finished. But Lamarco Morrison has over 23 years of experience in design and construction industry with a comprehensive background in project management, landscape architecture, contract administration, construction management, site development, cost estimating, budget management, community meetings, facilitation, agenda item preparation, grant proposals, and municipal and private agreements. He has 18 years in recreation and parks management and parks maintenance, ability to manage multiple building and work site projects on schedule and on budget. He is well-versed in procurement and bid laws, as well as municipal government administration and operation procedures. Lamarco worked for the City of Durham for 8 years, working in Parks and Recreation as a park landscape architect and construction project manager, and spent 10 years with the City of Greenville as parks planner in the Recreation and Parks Department. He has also spent time in the U.S. Army National Guard. He is a graduate of Pine Forest High School, so he's local. He received a diploma in Recreation and Parks Director School, a BS in Landscape Architecture, Environmental Design, and a Master's in Construction Management from North Carolina A&T in Greensboro. And I think we're very honored to have him join our team. Welcome, Mr. Lamarco Morrison. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. So glad you're finally here. Whereas the National Association for the Education of Young Children is celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 8th through 12th, 2019, and whereas this organization is asking everyone in the early education community to step it up during YOYC and spread the word about the importance of high-quality early learning and the critical role early childhood educators play in a child's development and learning. Whereas children learn as they enjoy music, explore food and cooking, building together, creating art, and celebrating with their families. Whereas the daily themes for this year are Music Monday, Tasty Tuesday, Work Together Wednesday, Artsy Thursday, and Family Friday. Whereas early childhood teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of the young children in the town of Hope Mills deserve thanks and recognition. Therefore, I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim April 8th through 12th as the Week of the Young Child in Hope Mills, and I encourage all citizens to make critically important investments in early childhood. I also have a special proclamation on Earth Day. Whereas Earth Day, April 22nd, 2019, is a time to celebrate environmental awareness and encourage the conservation, protection, and appreciation of our natural resources. Whereas it is the responsibility of each of us to safeguard the environment by recognizing that all human life depends upon Earth and one another for our mutual existence, well-being, and development. Whereas the concerned citizens of the town of Hope Mills are dedicated to the protection and preservation of our environment, and on May 4th, 2019, will participate in a spring cleanup event. Now, therefore, I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2019, the town will join 193 countries worldwide and observe Earth Day. And I urge all to use this time to celebrate our only planet and commit to building a sustainable green economy and encourage others to undertake similar actions. Thank you. Next, I'm very honored that we have with us tonight, representing North Carolina DOT, Mr. Andrew Barksdale, who is going to make a presentation to us at the request of the board on all the current projects that we have going on in Hope Mills. So I want to first thank you for being here, but I also want to thank personally DOT, because all these projects, it's great for us right now because of the great need we have to improve our road system. So welcome aboard, and thank you for coming this evening.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here. And Mayor, what you just said dovetails nice with what I'm going to talk about, give an overview of DOT, but really at the end of the day what DOT is doing is we're providing solutions to a community's traffic problems. Sometimes we will recommend a spot safety project or something, but oftentimes it's the community, it's the town board, it's FAMPO saying there's an issue here, we need to improve this road, and then it's up to the engineers and our consultants to design the safest road, the best intersection design, the best design that we know how to do, and that's what we're trying to do. But let me give you a quick overview, because this might be new for some folks, and this is kind of interesting too. In the last few years, we're kind of in the midst of a mini golden age of road building right now, and this slide will help explain that. So, in 2013, the General Assembly passed a law, the Strategic Transportation Investments Law, that completely removed favoritism from the process to prioritize road building projects. Now it's very data driven. And there's also room for some input from the highway divisions and your MPOs. So it's now basically the best selected projects to get built. So when there's a road project in your community in Hope Mills that's funded and ready to go in a few years, it's competing with other projects, and politics does not play a role anymore. So that's really cool. But that law created a little bit of a backlog. Suddenly projects that weren't immediately ready to be built got scored really well in this new fair-minded process, and suddenly we had to there was a backlog created, and just a few years ago the cash balance that DOT uses to build stuff had ballooned to over $2 billion, and that's money in the bank that's not doing anybody any good. No roads are being delivered, or not enough. So one of the mandates that the General Assembly gave Jim Trogdon was to spin down the cash balance, because we need to get projects delivered so that people can benefit from them. And as a side note, some of you may know this, but I just want to do a quick plug for Jim Trogdon because we're in Hope Mills. He's born and raised here. He went to Rockfish Elementary School. He left at age 18, went to NC State. And what's really neat about Secretary Trogdon is he's probably one of the first secretaries of DOT in a long time, at least, that really is an engineer. He had Greg Burns' job, not for the Division 6 in Fayetteville, but for Division 4 in Wilson. So he is an engineer. So he comes with an engineering mind. So he's really thinking creatively, which leads me to the third bullet. So actually was, summer of 2017, DOT under his leadership was able to accelerate several projects that were already funded and added new projects because of this mandate to get the fund balance down. And one of the tools that he was lobbying for was the Build NC initiative, which passed the General Assembly, bipartisan General Assembly last year. It was signed by Governor Cooper, and it's another financing tool, which is a code word for borrowing, except in this case, the law spells out how money would be borrowed. There's certain triggers are met, and it ends up to $300 million a year, and 100% of the highway trust fund dollars go back to pay the bond. It's not general fund dollars, so it's basically to help keep our fund balance or our cash balance from growing again. So this build and see is a way to keep the gas on the pedal to keep delivering projects, because when projects are delivered, you have better mobility, better safety, that helps the economy, and that's what we're trying to do. And this is one of those tools to help keep that, because you can spend down the cash balance for 2 or 3 years, but then you've reached your, there's state statutes set what levels those cash balances should be. And finally, before I kind of get into project specific, we are doing a lot more innovative designs. Super streets are those raised medians where it's a common design we're using now, where if you're on the side street, you go right and then you get in a dedicated turn lane to make a left turn. You see that on Legion Road, for instance, and other areas, Camden Road. And it really, at the end of the day, we just want to build roads the safest way we know how, and that's what we're doing that. You're going to see a lot more roundabouts all across the state, not just in Hope Mills. You're going to see roundabouts more often, because for the right intersection, they work really well. They don't work for all intersections, you need traffic signals for other intersections, but the key about roundabouts is you have to slow down to go through them. They're designed to go about 15 miles per hour, and it drastically cuts down on crashes, and especially the severity of crashes. So they're a great design for the right intersection. They also keep traffic flow kind of steady, rather than having to just stop and wait at a red light when there aren't any cars coming. So they're a great tool for the right intersection. So I do want to just go over a couple of quick projects. The Main Street medians, that took a while. So there was a lot of issues there. After the project was awarded, Lowe's came on the horizon, so we had to do some redesign on that. Utilities, sometimes it takes a long time to get the utilities, like the electric company or the cable company, to relocate their stuff out of the road when we're doing a road project. And there were some right-of-way settlements. I don't know all those issues, but that did create some delays. But I will tell you that it's basically going to be done this month, right? April?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is going to be done. I think that the new development that's going on across from Lowe's is the last thing that we're doing, a lane, turn lane or something. So that project did take a while, but that's why. And again, you see we added those medians, because it really cuts down on the crashes and helps the traffic flow. So it's something. And the other thing I'll say on this is, and I think reporters get tired of me saying this when I'm at an open house, but we just don't build 5-lane roads anymore. Building a 4-lane road with an open center turn lane, that's an old design. It's not as safe, and we just don't build them anymore. And now we're going back where there are heavy traffic volumes and high crash rates, and going back and adding medians to improve safety, so people can get where they're going and not get in a crash. One other project that's active, I just drove over it today. That's the NC 59 bridge. Fortunately, we're building a new bridge next to the old one, so that's good. And you can see right there, it's just going to be better, wider. We're redoing some of the service ramps and things, and it looks like completion is about a year away. That's been going on for at least a year, I'm sure. And you might encounter some night road closure still, but when traffic is less, but mainly we're building it right next to it. And then we'll tear down the old one. Now, let me just kind of go over some proposed projects in Hope Mills. And I'm not an engineer. I'm not the project developer or whatever. And we've all had these open houses. You can see it right there. Again, some proposed roundabouts are there. And again, this is a project that FAMPO and the town said, look, these roads need to be widened. And this is the solution that we're providing. The idea here is, especially what I think with the roundabouts is, you have a lot of, you have a school here, a library here, civic uses, a park. So we don't need people speeding through here. It needs to be, I think the design speed would be about 35 miles an hour as the speed limit for this. So so it's a great, thing there for that project. You see the designs on that back of the wall. We're still, the public comment process is very important. It's not just a rubber stamp. It's not something we just check off. We actually make changes to projects, and when issues are brought to our light. So we're glad that we're getting feedback from everybody from the open house that was held recently. A couple other projects, and again, these are funded and just really close down, really close to being starting, is widening Main Street. You can see the parameters there. That's, of course, kind of a bottleneck now, 3-lane road. And the Camden Road out there by Millstone, again, it would be all these widenings would have We go to 4 lanes with a median, would not do the open center turn lane, and a lot of growth out there, and that would be a good thing. You can see some of the projects, and again, you see the year. We're not talking that far off. These are pretty on the horizon. I do my last 2 slides, and then I'll take a few questions or whatever. My last 2 slides, I just want to go beyond Hope Mills a little bit with some major projects. The Faber Outer Loop, I think the first section opened in 2003. It's it's going to be $1 billion investment overall when it's all said and done. And the section, my third bullet, we just started within the last week. That section right there was awarded in December of 2017, but it was a design build contract. That contract was to finish the design and then start building it. Well, we're now started building it. I mean, it's actually started within the last week. So we're finally moving dirt on that, and you can see the completion date. I checked with our engineer on this, and this link, this section, the third bullet I'm referring to, they'll go just south of Camden Road. It won't literally go on Camden Road. The interchange that we'll build on Camden Road is for the section between Wayford Road and Camden Road, which has not been awarded yet. So the section that is from I-95 in Robinson County to just south of Camden, when that gets built, it will be open, but it won't go up to Camden Road. It'll go up to Black Ridge Road. And of course, that's 35 miles. You know, it's going to change traffic patterns, just like with NC 162 when that opened up, the Elk Road area, NC 162, that helped alleviate some of the downtown things. So these new highways, open up areas to development and allow people to get around faster. Of course, with Fort Bragg, we know that was important to get that built too for them. Last slide, I just want to talk about this very briefly, and I just want to give this anecdote because I think this is fascinating for me. So, when you look at digitized old highway maps from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're on our website, you can see beginning in the late 50s with the Eisenhower interstate system, little sections of I-95 were slowly being built for each decade. So like so 1960 map, you had some sections of it. 1970, you had some sections of it. In the last section of the current I-95 that was built, as you probably know, was opened in 1980 in Fayetteville, in the Fayetteville area. In fact, that's where it's a lot wider. When you get north of there and go into Harnett County, it's extremely narrow median because that's an old design. But even by the 70s, we weren't designing those little narrow, grassy medians. But the reason I bring that up is we're now going to do the same thing to widen this highway. We're not going to do toll roads. Remember, toll roads were in the General Assembly 15 years ago as a topic. It was hotly contested, and the General Assembly never did it. So now what we're going to do is use the same process, this STI law, based on crash data and traffic volumes, and this, I don't know what the formula all is, but so we have 25 miles that are funded and going to be widened to 8 lanes from just right around Eastover up to the Benson exit, and you can kind of see the timelines. There's another section south of Fayetteville in Robinson County that's also on the horizon, and eventually our goal is to widen all of it. I don't know, it's $3 or $4 billion, I'm not really sure, but not all of I-95 would be widened to 8 lanes. Some of it would only be 6 lanes, but the goal would be it may take 20 years to complete this widening, just like the original building of the interstate took 25 years. But this is what we're going to be doing based on the priorities and as it competes with other projects. Oops, I'm speaking in. Anyway, that concludes my presentation. I don't know if I can answer a lot of questions, but I'll try, and Richie might fill in for me too.
Does anyone have any questions or any information that you want to? I'll start with Commissioner Legg. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you for coming out and doing the presentation. I think most of us have been through some of this already and have an understanding of what's about to happen.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Larson? No, none. Good. Commissioner Bellflowers?
Well, Andrew, thank you again for
My pleasure.
presentation. For citizens that may have questions and maybe not here tonight, is there a way for them to
contact us? Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, Commissioner Bellflowers. I forgot about that. At our main website, ncdot.gov, ncdot.gov, on the main website on the homepage, there's a little menu or button that says Contact Us. And you click on that, and you can ask us any question you want to. There's a section just for potholes. There's some other sections for other things, and there's sort of a general, open-ended, ask us any question you want. You fill that out, give us your email address, and I actually end up seeing a lot of those, and I route them. I just route them to all the right engineers, all the right highway divisions, traffic engineer, maintenance engineer, whatever. So if you guys have questions about DOT-related projects, you can go to that portal, and it will be forwarded. Your answer, it could take a few days, of course, but that's a great way to reach out to us and get things answered or, maintenance issues that come up.
Last thing that I have, Mayor, is there a way, Melissa, that we could put your slideshow up on the town website?
Sure. The town clerk has it, so anybody wants it.
Yep, we can do that.
Yeah. Very informative. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Edwards? No. Mayor Pro Tem?
Andrew, appreciate you coming out. I just had a couple, on that one slide, so the I-295, you said entire loop is expected to be completed by 2024?
Yeah, 2024, maybe 2025. So that last section, the Rayford Road to Camden Road, has not been awarded yet. So, and I don't have a clear date on it. We're hoping to award it this year, but we don't. So that 2024 is kind of a question mark.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of citizens don't maybe realize, and this may be folklore, but the midway point between Miami and New York was right there outside of Parkland on 301. At least they claim to that. And so 95 replaced Highway 301 back when you said, and it's been a long time coming. I know a lot of people get frustrated on Interstate 95.
Oh, the widening, yeah. It's wider in Georgia and Florida, not in South Carolina, and not here. So the East Coast Main Highway, it's the East Coast Main Highway, it really is.
Well, we appreciate everything everybody's doing to make inroads on that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, next is public hearings. We don't have any this evening. Next will be public comments, and we do have one speaker, and that's Mason Steele.
Mason Steele, 3626 Lake Forest Road. Last week I went to the PNR meeting, and I watched a presentation of the proposed park up and coming. During this time there was nothing mentioned about the Heritage Park. Here we have a signature lake, and you walk across the street, and what do you see? You see a dilapidated, ugly-looking wooded area, trash that's been there for decades. I've been down to the creek on both sides, walked the entire creek on both sides, and I'll testify to that. I just can't imagine, that we have a signature lake and then we don't do anything about a park that has been proposed since NC State, so said, did a free design for us. I mean, if we could save money just by going with this design, instead of spending money for a consulting engineer, a professional engineering company to lay out a design, why don't you ask our citizens, if they have any input, so they could say, hey, let's get one of our schools to design something. These are our suggestions. And to the schools, why don't we recommend that, hey, we'll offer a scholarship maybe if you come up with a design for this. I mean, simple little things. But, when you look there behind Dr. Rayner's office and you look across the creek, what do you see? You see a sewer main that's ugly. If you look down further, you see, good golly, I mean, what a mess of woods. It'd be so easy to clean up. Instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars that we don't have at other places, why don't we clean up our little backyard here and be proud of our lake? Be proud of what we have instead of jumping way overboard and with money that we don't have. And I get to looking on one of the pages, they show a wonderful bridge that's going across the creek. And it just so happens that we already have a bridge. That bridge is called a sewer main. The only thing we need to do is beautify it. And it'd be so easily done. I'm just appalled, I guess, by the concept of this town not doing things in a proper order. That's all I have. I appreciate it kindly.
And while you're there, Miss Adams, I guess give Mr. Steele an update on what's being done. There are some things happening in Heritage Park, and they were at our budget retreat, and there's money been appropriated for that. So would you give just a brief update about what's planned?
Well, I think currently the Parks and, Public Works is in there cutting in some rough trails. We're doing that ourselves. And then we have Mr. Cisco is going to attend the upcoming Historic Preservation Commission meeting and get some feedback from them. But we have sat down and discussed different aspects that we feel that we could get accomplished this year at minimal cost. And so we've included that as a possible budgetary item, those items for this coming budget, with the idea that the Historic Preservation Commission would give us some input when he goes to their next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are moving on it. And as of last week, they were in there cutting trails.
Well, you know, if we would have got with the neighbor over there, Mr. Gardner, he could have probably came down through there and did some selective harvesting of some of the trees, and boy, does it need to be selected. But nonetheless, thank you very much.
Yes,
Is there any other
you're welcome.
questions?
Yep.
And Mr. Steele is also a member of our Historic Preservation Commission.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very
We
much.
appreciate those comments, Mason. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
so much.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll now read our consent agenda. If there's anything you'd like moved to new business, we can do so. Consideration of the approval of the minutes for the February 13th, 2019 special meeting. Consideration of the approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2019 special meeting. Consideration of the approval of the minutes from the March 18th, 2019 regular meeting. Consideration of the approval of the minutes from February 18th, 2019 closed session meeting. And consideration of approval of Jacobs Creek Circle speed bumps. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we go to old business. The first thing on old business is discussion of the Lake Bulkhead Project. This was requested by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell. Would you like to take this, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing from the constituents, of course, and I'm just going to probably defer to Town Manager Adams to give us an update. We met last Thursday, I think, with Public Works Director Cisco, and I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell. I have compiled a little bit of a timeline, but I'll start with that, and then I do have an update. But beginning in March of last year, March 27th, 2018, to be exact, there was a motion made to move forward with engineering design for the lake park to include the bulkhead feature with an ADA accessible entry point to the swim area, and that motion passed. And then April 16th, there was a motion made to move forward with Fleming and Associates for the structural engineering services to design 3 options for Phase 2 of Lake Park at Hope Mills Lake to include the bulkhead, kayak launch, erosion control, ADA accessibility to the swim area, and the sloping of the grassy area along the lake, and bring back before the board. That was April 16th, 2018. Then August 20th, 2018, motion was made and carried unanimously to add the handicap ramp near the launch and options for 1 or 2 stairs and remove the swim platform. October 22nd, 2018, I provided an update during my manager's report regarding Hope Mills Lake Park Phase 2, that Mr. Fleming was on site October 18th, taking additional measurements to the boat ramp area for the kayak launch and access down to the bulkhead. Also setting the layout for the single access set of steps approximately midway. The exact location is to be determined by grading around the gazebo. In addition, he was reviewing the feasibility of placing the handicap access adjacent to the steps with a hardened surface within the swimming area. December 3rd, a motion was carried unanimously to approve Phase 2 Lake Park plans with revisions for the kayak launch and bulkhead to include the ADA accessible ramp, a hardened landing area, and steps with hardrails in the center of the kayak launch. December 17th, discussion and approval to direct town manager to begin the planning process to implement the Hope Mills Lake 2 improvement plan in January 2019. That really does not apply to the bulkhead, but more or less to that we're moving forward with the, I think it was the swings and the picnic shelter, the landscaping, and the irrigation. And then January 7th, it was reported under my manager's report. Lake Bulkhead, a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting was held at the lake for interested contractors on December 21st, and the bid opening at that time was scheduled for January 11th, 2019. And I believe the bid opening actually happened a little bit later than that. I'm looking for Don, but okay, there he is. Okay, but at any rate, the bid opening did happen. At January 22nd, 2019 meeting, we had the consideration and discussion of the bulkhead project bid opening. 5 bids were received, and the lowest responsible bidder was M&E Contracting. Motion was made at that meeting to accept the bid with an alternate for Centipede sod and a contingency for a total of $483,946, contingent upon approval of funding and terms of the contract, and request that the finance director bring back a recommendation on how to fund this project. And then at the next meeting, February 4th, we brought back, the consideration and discussion of the Hope Mills Lake Bulkhead project funding, and of the discussion of the standard contract with M&E Contracting. And a motion was made at that time and carried unanimously to authorize the $483,946 from fund balance for the contract with M&E Contracting for the Hope Mills Lake Bulkhead project and the Centipede sod. And then March 4th, the notice to proceed, I reported at the March 4th meeting that the notice to proceed was issued on February 25th. And with that, I will go into, after the notice to proceed, the materials were ordered, and right now the pile driving subcontractor is ready to mobilize when the materials are received. The lowering of the lake level began on March the 20th, as reported. The current elevation as of today was 102.15. I believe Mr. Cisco has approximately another foot to lower. I'm sorry?
12 to 18 inches.
12 to 18 inches. So what I've got for this evening is our discussion points for proceeding on with the scheduled construction of the bulkhead project. The erosion of the embankment is very noticeable, and as you can see on the pictures on the screen, I believe there's 2 pictures. This erosion will only worsen if corrective measures are not taken. The project must continue as scheduled so that we can mitigate any further damage to the embankment of the lake bed. The 2019 hurricane season is nearly upon us. Typically, we have experienced hurricane weather events in September and October, well after the completion of the bulkhead project. The project must begin soon in order to be completed by the peak of hurricane season. The proposed bulkhead project involves ADA compliance. and the safety of the citizens wishing to swim and use the grassy area. The embankment will be resloped and will result in a safer and more aesthetic-looking lakefront. The sod should not be planted in the winter months and should be planted as soon as the project is completed. The contractor will be responsible for irrigation for the first 30 days following the installation. We will be consulting with a landscaping architect for irrigation proposals and will bring forth to the Board of Commissioners. The contractor will work as expeditiously as possible, weather permitting, to complete the project in a timely manner. There really is no optimal time for the lake to be closed for boating and swimming. While we understand there will be some inconvenience to the citizens and the many people that come to use our lake, the project will result in a safer environment and help to mitigate any further erosion damage to the lake embankment. Kayak and canoe access will be allowed to the greatest extent possible, dependent upon work location and progress. The town would like to thank the citizens in advance for their patience and understanding for the duration of this project. And that is my update.
I appreciate the town manager, Adams. A lot of citizens just didn't understand the timing, and it is unfortunate. It is this time of year with given the erosion problems. And just on a side note, we did check with town attorney Dan Hartzog there about any contractual obligations and all those things. So we're locked in and locked and loaded, ready to go.
Yep.
But I think everybody up here has been approached by citizens on the street or social media or whatever, and we owe it to them to give them that explanation that you just gave.
And I'd be happy to put this on the website and Facebook
if you give,
first thing tomorrow,
media,
and give it to Roger.
Give the media folks here.
Certainly will.
At least we got two in the audience at least.
Yep.
So we get that to them. I appreciate the update. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, I've got some
Yes,
comments.
sir.
One of the main drivers of this project is safety, public safety of the park, along with the erosion. I've only had a few people call me about it, and they just wanted to know what was being done and the timing. Well, of course, like you said, Town Manager Melissa Adams, there's no right time for a project like this. None at all. And most folks, if you just tell them the truth and just tell them the right thing, they understand. This is really a big safety issue. It's tied to the permit. It's erosion. There was a lot of design back and forth to get this right, to get it ADA compliant. And here's the one thing I don't want, and I hope we don't do this. There's no rush, and there shouldn't be a rush on a project like this. We didn't rush the lake. We didn't rush the dam structure. We didn't rush that pier that's out there. And we shouldn't rush this. Because this is going to be a very nice project when it's finished. Finally, that what I call the cliff, the unsafe cliff, is going to be graded down. And you're going to have centipede that's going to be in there. And it's going to be an irrigation system. I hope that the project's done somewhere in July or August. But if it's not, okay. But there shouldn't be any rush to push to do this. And Madam Mayor, that's kind of the comments that I've shared with the folks that have asked me about it. I don't think there should be a delay. I don't think that today. I wouldn't agree on a delay of this project in any way. The materials have been ordered. The project has been awarded. These folks are ready to go. And any delay into a fall would just be the wrong direction to even consider or even take. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other comments at this time?
The irrigation system will be in before we lay our sod, correct?
No.
we're gonna lay sod in the middle of July or August with no irrigation system?
That's quite possible, because the engineer doesn't do irrigation systems. But keep in mind, when the sod gets put down, the contractor is responsible for the first 30 days so we get it established. He's going to be doing all the irrigation.
What's gonna bring a water truck in or something?
That's up to him. I can't dictate how he does it. But
Okay.
it's in the contract for him to water it and take care of it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
it's kind of important that we make a decision on whether to move forward or what to do. Even our vegetable committee doesn't have a clear future for their planning. So if we make a decision here of what we got to do because of the contract, then they can make their plans about the way they have to do their events and their schedules. So if we need a motion, I'll make a motion to move forward with the project.
I have one question.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Are we going to at least do our best to have the irrigation, everything laid out, ready to rock and roll as
Yes.
soon as
Yes.
it's done? Okay.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
going to have everything approved and done and laid out. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be
All right.
bringing, we're working on that, and we'll be bringing that back to you all as soon as we have it.
So it's quite possible we might actually have the irrigation in before the 30 days is up.
It's possible, yes, ma'am.
Because
No, we don't.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think we need a motion.
Why
We need a
don't
motion, Dan,
No.
on
We
this?
really don't, because
No.
we're already, we've got
We're
a
already
contract
doing
in
it.
place.
We're engaged
It's
with it.
scheduled to be done.
Yeah.
Unless you're,
I'll
if
withdraw
you're not
that.
changing anything, I don't think there's any need for a motion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next thing on our agenda is an update on our investigation. I'll turn it over to,
Sure. So I did speak with Jim Hawley this afternoon, and as you may recall, he had late March as a sort of tentative timeline for having his investigation completed. He is, I understand he's very close to being done with his investigation, but he has 2 or 3 additional interviews he would like to conduct. I'm working on helping him schedule those interviews now, and I anticipate that within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be looking at a completion date for the investigation. So that's really all I have at this point to share.
okay. Any other questions in reference to this? Okay, the next thing on our agenda is new business, and it's non-public hearing item, case number 19-032, consideration of the Salvatore Danielle property, C1P, site plan and group development review, Hope Mills zoning and subdivision ordinances, zone C1P, acreage .38 acres plus or minus, located 5601 Rockfish Road, and it's submitted by Salvatore Danielle, developer. And I'll turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Hello, Madam Mayor, distinguished board members. Again, this is case 19-032. In terms of your existing conditions, the subject property is a 0.3 acre tract located at 5601 Rockfish Road at the northeast intersection of Rockfish Road and Bullitt Street, developed with a 2,400 square foot vacant structure. Access to the site is provided along Bullock Street in the rear of the existing structure, with parking located along Rockfish Road, along the northern side of the structure, and in the rear of the subject property. The subject property also fronts 74 feet along Rockfish Road, 199 feet along Bullock Street, and is zoned again under C1P district regulations. What you'll see here is the subject property outlined in yellow. And again, you can see it on the corner of Bullard and Rockfish Road. All right, in terms of the proposal, the applicant is requesting a site plan approval for a group development that anticipates utilizing a portion of the existing structure as a doctor's office, while the remaining portion will be marked as vacant commercial space. A review of the proposed internal renovations concluded that the proposed work does not rise to the level of requiring sidewalks along Rockfish Road and Bullitt Street, and there are a total of 22 parking spaces proposed for this development. I'll put the site plan up for discussion, and staff is recommending approval of this request. I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
A quick one. So what are basically the changes from the way it sits right now? Is it the parking spaces or?
No, it's I think it's a church, a vacant church, and he's renovating the inside of it to a doctor's office. I think he's doing some minor changes, like changing out windows, but there are no exterior levels of construction proposed. So it's basically a change of use, which is why it's triggering the site plan approval process, because it's going from a church to a doctor's office.
So the site plan is basically the same site?
Site plan is exactly the same.
Okay. That's all I have.
This is the building behind Lumbee Bank, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that tan-looking, long, rectangular-looking building.
Liquor store.
No, farther down, it's it's blue, right?
It's like tannish looking.
It's got the windows boarded now.
Yeah, it's right on
right
the
behind
corner of
Lumbee
Bullitt
Bank.
and Rockfish.
It's like a little. It used to be
Behind
like
the
a little.
Trophy-
It used to be a little strip
Behind where
center.
Trophy House
Yeah,
was.
and now and then it went to a church, and then
Yeah.
okay.
That's correct. That's it for me.
Well, if y'all don't have anything, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the site plan for case number 19-032.
Have a motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion of the park grant, and this would be for the Lake Park. And Commissioner Larson requested this.
So I just, in speaking with Ms. Adams, we were talking about the grant opportunity to possibly, a smaller grant for the lake park, for the picnic shelter, the stairs, the ADA stairs, or the ADA ramp, the stairs going into the swimming area, the kayak launch, the swings. Did I say picnic shelter already? And picnic shelter. And wondering if that would also, if we'd be able to use any of that towards upgrading the bathrooms at Big T's. Not necessarily using McAdams to write this, actually having town staff do the grant.
The part of grant application.
Because I know that McAdams has said that this was not, she wasn't sure if it was going to be something that would really
Right.
qualify high on the list. So it would be
Right.
unnecessary for us to spend money with McAdams to do the actual grant, but if staff could do it. Because we really kind of have things in place, and it wouldn't be $300,000 worth, but
Right. Well, based on, I talked to her on Thursday, and she sent me some email information. So, and I'll just read that for you all, and then we can discuss. But based on the information that I have given her and previous discussions with our Partif representative, she doesn't feel that it appears that the scope described, ADA compliance upgrades, gravel driveway, parking lot, the playground, the swings, the kayak launch, and the new picnic shelter would make for the strongest application. The Partif Review Board is looking for recreational elements to make up the majority of the improvement costs rather than infrastructure or supporting site elements. Will also be required to have a master plan, environmental review, Partif exhibit, and site-specific community engagement meetings in place to submit along with the application. Their expectation is that the improvements are well planned and part of a larger system-wide vision, and the matching funds are committed as part of the annual budget. And then she provided me with our Partif Partif representative, the contact information for that person. Now, as far as staff submitting it, that's possible, for us to do that. We can go back and, try to support that we did have a master plan, albeit that, it has changed somewhat. We did not have environmental review done, I don't believe, on the whole thing. I'll have to double check on that.
Not on the lake park, no.
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 And then these site-specific community input sessions, I believe that, the Lake Advisory Committee met numerous times. I believe we did have, possibly enough that would support that. We could certainly go back and gather all of that information. That would not be terribly difficult to do.
Because it does not cost town staff. It doesn't cost us any money for town staff.
No, there is no,
There's
just
no
our
fee
time.
like we would if we had McAdams
There's no
do
fee
it, so,
or-
to
yeah.
apply. So
Just start, yeah.
What happens
There's no
to-
application fee or anything like that.
Are we
but
still going to write the grant for the golf course park that we've contracted the McAdams group to do?
That's up to the.
Because I know that's
to the
part of
board.
this, that she's done all the work and has picked the area that would be most beneficial for us to partner with. And what's happening to that, since we've already paid for that to take place?
has she begun that?
Yes, because it's due May 1st.
Madam
Yeah,
Mayor,
I
that
think
was
she's
my
currently
question.
working on that.
Yeah, because
but-
that's part of
As
the
part of,
contract.
as part of her contract with under the comprehensive plan, we're paying her $8,000 to write a part of grant. That's what's in the contract. I think I'm correct, right, Drew? It's 8,000.
That's the exact amount, but.
But the 8,000 was for her to write a part of grant.
And I know it started because she informed us at the meeting that it was due May 1st.
It is due May 1st.
But they haven't come back and given us the dollar amount because we haven't given her the dollar amount of how much we can spend on the matching grant. So we haven't even gotten to that point yet. We've never issued a dollar amount of.
Right.
Yeah, that's the question. Is what did we want her to write the part of
I
grant
mean,
for?
she can't do that until we've given her an amount that
So what is she commenced on then?
Well, her proposal
Yes,
was
you got
was on the golf course.
and to talk to DOT about a driveway, but we
No.
haven't even heard back from the driveway.
She gave us the proposal, and it's the driveway back to the ADA accessible.
Right, on
creek-
the back end
creek-
of the
Yeah, she
golf
showed
course.
us which
Yes,
one,
yes.
and she also explained to us that that driveway was more feasible because of going directly back, and she gave us a rough estimate of a total.
But
She
DOT
gave
had
us the
said
money
that
now.
was a no-go for that driveway. Back when we spoke to them, there wasn't going to be one in that area. So we were waiting to hear back from McAdams whether DOT was going to allow a driveway to even be in that location. And we haven't heard back yet on that, have we?
Yeah, I don't think she has. No, not specifically. No. Yeah, she didn't mention anything on
Because I think she
Thursday
was
when I
going to come
talked
back
to
with
her.
that, and then we were going to discuss dollar amount of what we could afford to even match on a grant, if any.
So, Madam Mayor, it's fair to say that today is 1 April, and this part of grant's got to be submitted by 1 May, and we have not given Rachel Carter any direction on what to write, the part of grant
She hasn't
for.
given us direction on whether DOT could approve the driveway down there.
I think
Because
she was
that's where
still-
she was
yeah.
Where we
working
left
from.
it.
That's where we left it, where she was going to come back to us and tell us whether that driveway could be down at the far end of the lake.
I think she
of
was
the
still going to
golf
write, I
course.
think she was still looking at pursuing that area, because that's what, when she left us, that she said that was the most feasible area to submit it, and chances are we would receive it. The only thing I worry about is time frame. I know submitting a part of grant, it's got to have all those details, and that was one holdup. We have submitted one before, and we
Yep.
did not receive it. And this time, typically, when you pay someone to do the work for you, then it's submitted and you stand a better chance of getting it. And if we've already hired her, and I know she's been working on it because she stated that at the last meeting that she had all the information as far as that side of the golf course, and I guess she could move the driveway. It would just cost a little more for the grant process, but
Enter
My
Mr. Morrison.
yeah.
Enter Mr. Morrison.
But my
Did a good job.
impression was that she was going to be ready for the grant to go. That's what the whole process of getting this to the public Monday night was so it could be brought back to us, and then she could move forward. And if I'm wrong, I don't believe so, because I don't believe she'd been working on this plan for this length of time and just holding up all other decisions, and that's not moving on her putting forth a part grant.
So, with that said, Madam Mayor,
I'm waiting.
any part of grant for the lake park is not going to happen. Any submission for the lake park.
Is there a rule for only one?
No, you can submit as many as you want. It just depends on who submits them. You can submit as many grants as you want to submit. I'm not saying you're going to get them all approved, but you can submit more than one. So, back to the lake park. The bulkhead project does not qualify for a part of grant.
Right.
There's been a lot of back and forth, again, on this bulkhead. It does, it doesn't. It does not, for the 101st time, I think. It does not qualify for the part of grant. None. None of it. So if we're going to do a part of grant for the lake park, then we probably should direct Rachel to write it that way. But she's already contacted our part of representative who believes that the grant's not strong enough to even be submitted.
That's why I said the employees could do it. Right? Doesn't
Okay.
cost us any money if the employees do it. If it's not a strong grant, I mean, it's a better chance it's better than not doing it all.
So do we still want Rachel to proceed with the part of grant on the golf course, because that's what her understanding is, and that's what she presented to us, was that she was going to submit a part of grant on the lower part of the golf course. Am I right?
The minutes of March 4th, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell and carried unanimously to approve the Pardiff application contingent on NCDOT approving the temporary driveway
Okay.
permit
There it is.
and not requiring outside road improvements.
There it is.
There it is. So we're waiting still on McAdams.
Has that been done, is the question.
I don't know, we had DOT in here tonight. I mean, we had Richie Hines right here. So,
Maybe a check on it tomorrow.
Can you just ask Rachel? I don't believe, from my experience with grants, I don't believe you want to submit two to compete against each other.
Yep.
You submit one and the one that would be the most sufficient so that you can get the money. And anytime you attach a firm's name to it that has done all the research, you stand a better chance too.
or we could not submit the part of grant and save the $8,000.
I don't think you're going to save any money, because I think she's already been working on that part. I mean, it's too late now for her to say that she hasn't been doing some work. I would assume she's done some things.
We were supposed to hear back, though.
Yeah, it was contingent on the DOT
Yeah.
situation.
Oh, no.
So I don't think it should fall back on this board when it's clearly stated in the...
Can you contact her? Because the board
Yes.
approved for her to do it, and she was going to get back about the driveway.
Right.
So can't we pursue her and find out where she is before we make a decision to do something
Yep.
that we know we've already paid her to do something?
Melissa, can you refresh our memory on exactly how much this was going to cost?
I think it was 400 and something. She mentioned 400.
Was that our part, or was that's not the total?
No,
That's not the total project.
It's just the submission of the application, and then we pay Adams.
More than 400.
Yeah.
We're kind of using that as our guesstimate,
that was the,
so, and we didn't follow up from there.
So, what's the town's obligation for matching funds?
the
Be 400, or is the total project 400?
no, the 400. I believe the total project was 800 and something, wasn't it?
900.
Or was 900.
Yeah, that's where.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the total funding for the project? It was 900, So the town would be matching 4.
If we got 4.
4 and some change.
If we got 4.
If we got.
If we got awarded the part of
Yeah,
grant.
she has said that they rarely, they don't, I mean, they don't.
3, I think
they-
she said.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't give the 500 anymore.
So
It's
that means
usually
we have to come
between
up with
3,
6.
yeah, around 300,000.
Okay.
Well, I guess the main thing would be how much its total project's going to cost, because typically what they do is the matching grant, and so
Right.
if it's feasible for us to have something done for $700,000 as compared to the $900,000, she explained in that meeting over next door that everything was as if we were doing the cream of the crop, top everything.
Right.
And that we would have, in some cases, we would not be spending those top dollars
Right.
because we could
We can
back
pare it
up.
down
We
some.
could, we could pare down things. But she was going with the top because that way we would have, always could back down. We wouldn't have to spend that much
Right.
money. That was what I heard when I went to that last meeting.
My point was there shouldn't have been any work done on that grant application with a contingency like we requested until the contingency was cleared. That's when you start, if we put a contingency there, we need to make sure the contingency is cleared before any work was done. I'm not the lawyer. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree.
Well, I guess, Madam Mayor, we need some clarification from the McAdams group on what direction they're going to go in.
Could you get
Did you
that?
say you'd check on it tomorrow?
Can you get that information?
Some of this is tied up with the next agenda item. I think it's.
Well, if we have to call a special meeting, this would be a good reason for a special meeting to make this decision. And that would be something that we could, if you get the information, that would be, to move forward on it. Or
Wow.
to not do it. But I know that part of her contract was to do a part of
It
grant.
was, $8,000 was in the contract, and now we're at a time-sensitive issue.
And all the information, the surveys and stuff she did tied to that.
The
As far
performance
as-
has to occur, right? Economic performance has to occur before compensation is made and earned, correct?
Say that again.
If there's a part of a contract, if economic performance does not occur, no compensation is awarded, is that correct?
Depends how you structure the contract, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I'm for writing a part of grant. We just all get on the same sheet of music here. We expected to hear back about the DOT issue then the following week, or I think even through the town manager. And we haven't heard anything.
Or at least an update at this meeting, since this is the first meeting in April, and we've only got the rest of this month to do it. I would think that this meeting would definitely, she should have had an answer for us. But, Madam Mayor, I'm going to go back to the lake park. Now, is the town staff going to write this part of grant, or what's the direction?
Whatever y'all direct them to do. It's your,
I mean, what's
your
the direction
decision.
here? 1 May is the target. It either goes in on 1 May or it doesn't.
Well, can we do it contingent on what we find out from Rachel Cotter? I mean, I think we can't make that decision until, we should have heard from her several weeks ago, and we didn't. So now we're holding up this decision because we haven't heard from someone else who is supposed to get back to us. I mean, wheels of government, I guess.
So I guess what I'm hearing, Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is that we're looking at a special meeting within the next week.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? To decide on this part of grant, one way or the other, and what project it's going to be, or if it's going to be any
Well,
project.
don't you agree that the way the motion was made by this board, that if she has been able to work this out as far as this driveway goes, then she proceeds? Because that's the way the motion was made. So if it's worked out, then she proceeds. If it's not worked out, then we need to come back and redo or make another decision. Would that be reasonable? Because the motion has been made. If the driveway is okay, then
Currently,
she
in its
writes
current
it.
location.
In its current location.
If this driveway is approved by DOT, then that approves the project. That's the way the motion was made, right?
I don't
Mayor
believe
Pro
that
Tem?
was the.
Yeah, that's the way it was made.
Well,
It was her finding
we'll
out.
go over it again.
We can look it up.
We can read it again.
That one of those
Yeah.
driveways.
It was-
would
Want
be
to read it
approved.
again? I want to make sure we're right.
Yeah, and she explained, when we asked her,
On the
she
map.
explained that the far driveway, which is the one we've already gotten,
Right here.
trying to get a permit
This
for,
one.
that was too much distance and would cost too much to carry it back. The most reasonable
I brought my
driveway
map.
was the one on this far end.
That's why I brought my map. I knew we were
Yeah,
going to get deep in this.
So the motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell and carried unanimously to approve the Partis application
Okay.
contingent upon NCDOT approving the temporary driveway permit and not requiring outside road improvements.
So those two things have to be factored in, the no turning lanes and NCODOT had to approve.
Why don't we do this?
So those two conditions are met, and you automatically have approved.
Yeah. and
Why
you
don't we do
approve.
this? If you can't get the DOT approval by the end of this week, or whatever date y'all want to determine, then we have a Plan B to go down to the lake park, because Plan A is not going to work in that case, or if she's got it by X date, we don't need a special meeting. We can go with a Plan B, authorize her right now to go to the lake park if she can't get Plan A to work.
What? This project is, she's saying, close to $900,000. And I don't think we ever really, maybe we didn't speak in depth enough about that we would have to come up with $600,000 if we even got a $300,000 grant. I mean,
It'll have to be budgeted next year because we won't know the decision until September about the grant. That's
Well, and you don't know if that's the accurate amount either.
Nope.
That's the other piece, I guess. I think it's all, we need to just contact Rachel Cotter and find out, and then you can make a decision. I think that's the easiest
Yes.
solution.
I think it is too.
Okay. All righty. Yep.
We're
All right.
paying her. She's the consultant,
All right.
so she should have a voice at the table.
Yep.
Okay. Next on our agenda is discussion of the entrance to the golf course, and this again is requested by Commissioner Larson.
we have our permit?
No, the NCDOT site visit resulted in their concurrence to move forward with the temporary driveway location. A Freese and Nichols representative made a site visit, and they are working up the site plan for the formal DOT submittal. Once that site plan application has been submitted, then we'll move forward with formal engineering plans to be drawn up.
So 6
it's-
months. This will be 6 months, April 30th. We're not going to make that deadline, are we?
No, but it.
What are we
I
looking
mean,
at?
we're moving
Right.
with
What
it.
are we
but,
looking at? Do we have a destination?
Don, do we have any idea possibly of about?
DOT's
The-
taking 30 to 45 days right now to review all their submittals. Once we get it to them, it'll be a couple of weeks till we get it from the engineer, because we actually have to have an engineered site plan to submit to DOT. And then their review period, then from there, we can go ahead and get it contracted out, so they can get actually designed. We want, because of that loop, we want it to be engineered so that we can identify cross and running slopes to show that we are ADA compliant on about a quarter-mile loop trail section, like we had talked about.
Don, could you come up to the mic and speak, because we won't be able to hear any of this on the recording.
Okay. It'll take DOT 30 to 45 days to do their review. It will be a couple more weeks probably until we get the actual site plan from Freese and Nichols, and we have to have that to submit to DOT. That will show the location of the temporary driveway. Once that is completed, we'll have an engineer look at it. One of the things that we want to be very cautious with doing is part of the walking system that we have is being identified as ADA compliant. And I got with the Access Board in Washington, D.C., and because our loop is going to be greater than a quarter-mile in circumference or in diameter or round, they feel that we would be fully ADA compliant and we can follow their rules of exception for the remainder
of the walking trails because of the natural terrain. So we need to have a stamped or certified copy that shows what our cross and running slopes are to show our ADA compliance on that part of it. We're going to save a little bit on the actual entry and the driveway because we can do that in a temporary material, whether it be crush and run or something like that, with a portion of the parking lot being a hardened asphalt, concrete, whatever they come up with, surface, so that we will have a portion of it that will be ADA compliant with a hardened surface. It will be close to the trails so that we just have to make a small connecting piece to it. And then on the two ends, we have about 500 linear feet that we're going to loop off to close it. And then, of course, our signage that's going to show what our slopes are and what the ADA compliant area, walking area is of that park.
That's good news.
Have we had any conversation with the other driveway owner and what happens to his driveway with having the driveway right beside his? Has there been any conversation reference to that?
We have not had any conversation with reference to that with that owner. Our conversations with the DOT, quite interesting, showed that because those parcels of land, both the YMCA parcel and the parts between ours and the YMCA's, have essentially not had anything done to them for over a year. Anything that happens on those pieces of land will be considered a change of use of the properties, and the new DOT stipulations will come into effect for whether it be turning lanes, improvements to the road system and stuff like that. And that is something that will be between those property owners and the DOT. That does give the town an opportunity maybe to partner with them if we do need to do turning lanes, that we can share in the cost and design and stuff like that, so that if they want access to their properties, we can kind of share and have maybe a cross-section, a parallel road, like a service road there, so that we only have to do one, and it won't be a full financial burden on any of the properties. But that would be a discussion to have later on.
And Madam Mayor, I have reached out to that property owner numerous times, and he's not returned my phone call.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Don.
Sir.
Every week, it appears that I tell some new person that we don't own that parking lot. I'm telling you, it's almost like routine now. I don't even need a script anymore. I have said that so many times to folks who think we own that parking lot, and they believe that we're delaying opening up the golf course for walking, for nature trails, and that's not the case. My question is, has this master plan that was presented by Rachel, has this been shared with DOT in any of the discussions ongoing with any entrance that they will approve to go into the park?
When we first approached DOT, we brought, and it may have been a copy of that plan, and that is where with
No, it wasn't,
Division two,
Don. It wasn't. It was
wasn't
an
that one?
overview map of the property.
Okay, but it was
But-
one that showed potential driveway locations, even though it wasn't that exact plan.
Right.
But we did show something to DOT, very similar to that, if it was just the overview. That was when we found out that the very far side was potentially not going to be approved by DOT because of line of sight and terrain conditions.
We're talking about the
where
lower,
it comes up.
the
Yes, sir.
lower piece,
Right.
before you get to the curve.
Right.
Right. Okay. So that's pretty much a no-go from DOT.
That is their initial assessment. That's not the official, because
Okay.
you have to make the submittal in order for them to come back and tell you yes or no. But when they reviewed it and they're familiar with the area, they said that there was a good chance that that was not going to be approved because of those reasons.
Okay, so on the surface, they don't like they don't like this one.
Right.
Then we've got another one that's coming off of Fairway Drive.
Right.
Is that one still in play?
That one's in play.
That one's in play.
That one's in play.
Okay.
That is the one that there's a possibility that they will require signalization of that. That will essentially create an intersection.
Yeah.
A four-way intersection, and
Yeah.
they may require us to signalize that, and that will be at our expense.
Okay. But if that's to develop, that's the town's responsibility.
Yes.
Then there'll be turn lanes required too.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to be a four-way with lights and turn lanes.
Yes.
At Fairway Drive. Okay, now let's move on up to the one that's closer to the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Has DOT staked out a recommended location right now for
They won't
anything?
do that. We have to request where we would like the parking lot. That's why we had to do a site map for our temporary driveway. We have to request to DOT where we would like to put something, and then they'll review it.
So there were some markings down there on a temporary entrance on the golf course.
Between Fairway and the parking lot.
Fairway.
Is that you all?
That's me.
Yeah, that was us.
That's
where
where
our,
I'm going with this.
Right. That's going to be our temporary
That's where
driveway
I'm
for
going
the
with
parking lot.
Yeah.
And
Are
I
you kind of Ewing it back up towards that building? Is that the idea?
No, ma'am. I did that simply because of topography. That is the flattest area right there, and when it comes off of Gulfview Road, your stormwater sheet flows right off of Gulfview Road into essentially a continuous sheet instead of channeling, and because that's the peak, rather than stopping or halting or redirecting any rain flow, it will just continue to sheet flow because it's the peak and it'll run off both sides. And then if you go down into the golf course, that's essentially the flattest area right there. So we don't have to do but minimal grading to do the parking lot there, and then it's an easy access point to the walking trail itself. So we did that for the town's purpose for what y'all wanted for a walking trail.
Right.
So that topographically it made the most sense. It would require the least amount of grading. It was easy to access. It didn't have to have a lot of additional work done for stormwater control. And then when we closed off the loops, it was going to take minimal grading, and it's going to be relatively simple to asphalt over and close off the loops of those first two trails right there, or paths for trails.
Okay, so this is the town's recommendation. It's not DOT.
Right, that's what we asked for a parking lot so that we can open it up for walking for our citizens.
Right, for the temporary.
And the road's going to go from there to, and you're going to create a parking lot where?
Down inside the golf course, right there.
Right by the building?
No.
Not by your metal building?
One of the main
No, ma'am.
reasons I ask this is because this location is going to be right in the middle of any proposed wagon wheel complex or a multi-purpose field.
Yes, sir, but
It's
keep
going
in
to
mind,
be right in the middle.
the key concept was, when we were doing this, was that it is going to be a temporary location so that we can offer a walking facility until we get to the point, in however many years it takes, to develop that portion of the golf course.
Why can't we parallel the existing roadway to the building?
Terrain. Well, we can. The problem is going to be access. Keep in mind, wherever we put that parking lot, you have to provide equal access to folks with disabilities.
Right.
So if we go there,
Yeah.
and we have to provide access, that means that we've got to pave or treat the surface area, a larger or a longer surface area, to get to a part where we can park and people will have access to a flat walking area.
But around the building is flat. Is where are we putting the parking lot? We're going to put it, under your plan, it's going to be on the flat, in the grass.
It's going to be on the flat.
In the grass. So we're not going to the building at all.
No.
The parking lot will be parallel to the parking lot that's in existence?
Essentially.
Okay,
But it's going to be a few hundred yards down.
yeah. Where the stake is now?
Yeah.
Right.
And all of this is crush and run.
For the majority of it's crush and run, yes, sir.
It'd be like the mayor did at Carlene's, right? You had the crush and you had the
Right.
concrete for the indicator.
I'm just trying to
It's
get
the
a.
most cost-effective.
I'm trying to get a conceptual picture here, Don. Really, that's kind of where I'm looking at of the geographical area where we're doing this, because I just didn't know if this had been shared with DOT in the planning processes of approving entrances and exits, especially when we're talking about a part of grant on one piece at the bottom for Rachel.
Well, Commissioner Belfast, one thing I ask you to please keep in mind while you're looking at all of this, and our approach to the DOT was that this is going to be a temporary driveway, and that is how it was presented to them, and that's their understanding of it. They know that we have potentially a park or something going in that area, but for right now, so that we can utilize that to at least a minimum extent for walking and stuff like that, that's our purpose.
Do you have a rough estimate of how much this is going to cost?
Well, that was my next question, too. Thank you, Mayor. You took it from me, but that was my next one coming up. The estimated cost for this temporary road and parking lot.
And the parking lot and closing off the loop.
Yeah.
Well, with the asphalt work and the grading, it'll probably cost about $100,000.
For the whole project?
For the whole project.
And that's pending DOT approval?
That's pending, yes, sir.
And they could move it up and down, or?
Well, he's already, I've asked Richie Hines to go out there.
They've given concurrence.
And he concurred
Okay.
with it. He thought it was a good location.
Yep.
But now we have to do the formal submittal process, and that's where we have to have the engineered site plan.
You're correct, because I talked to Richie Hines before the meeting tonight, and he told me the same thing.
Well, I wouldn't tell you anything different.
I know you would. I wanted him to tell me that. Yeah, I've seen it, and I'm good with it, and I think you guys are, moving in the right direction.
Not to get off track, but the parking lot that we have for Heritage Park, where
Yes, ma'am.
that was the Schnabel or whoever went ahead and gravelled it for us, that area, is that driveway going to work for a driveway into that parking lot? Because I know that's going to be the next concern, is if we're going to move forward with Heritage Park, we're going to have to pay for parking on that side. And is that already sort of okay the way it is, or no?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The actual driveway probably is. The ADA rules have got a list of exceptions that you can apply to whatever it is that you're doing, and terrain is one of the considerable exceptions. They say that if you have to do a large amount of grading or bringing in fill, then you can consider whatever area you're looking at as an exception because of its natural topography. The driveway going down into that parking lot, there's not a whole bunch we can change without doing anything drastic. We can't cut the road right there, so we'd have to look at bringing in fill. And in order to do that, to make the difference in elevation, would take a significant amount, and it would eat up more real estate than any of us would like to see happen. Where the rules then would come into play would be the actual access to the trails. We can leave the trails as they're going to be, but the up to the point of access has got to be ADA accessible. So we would probably have to put in some sort of a solid parking surface, an exit point, and maybe even an entrance to the trails. But after that, then it's a natural area, and we're following the natural topography of the land. But we have to at least provide an ADA, up to the point of entrance, an ADA accessible point.
I would just like to appeal to this board that Heritage Park was supposed to be Phase 3 and was supposed to be where we headed next.
Yep.
And I don't see how we can spend $100,000 for a temporary solution to use the trails at the golf course and then not have funding for Phase 3 of Heritage Park. And that's my own personal opinion, but like those that have spoken about Heritage Park, it's been on the books since I think that sign down there was put my first year as mayor. It might have been before then. So I know that it's been there for consideration, and I just wonder if our public would be happy with us spending money and that amount for a temporary park. And again, that's my opinion. I don't have a vote in this, but I do have strong feelings about spending a lot of money for temporary fix.
Just so I'm clear, Mayor, on the site plans we got from McAdams, they had several parking lots designated.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way we can get our temporary parking lot in one of those areas, so that when necessarily we can still get some reutilization out of it. The parking lot's further down.
Yeah.
And it's on a slope, or
You're looking at a cut right into
I
here.
think it goes into that either field or,
Topography is the concern when we're talking about other areas of the golf course. I mean, majority of folks have been down into the area that,
Yep.
could be used as an amphitheater if you wanted to. It's that naturally sloped, even as you go further down Gulfview. Looking at something from a distance, it's very hard to tell what a slope actually is until you're actually on it and measuring it.
well, how's McAdams planning on putting parking lots there?
I have no idea, sir.
They're not, they're just drawing pictures.
When they do parking lots, that's going to be, you're going to have grading and fill and stuff like that.
I think
What
she's
we had
explained
done,
that was
yes,
part of the.
what we had
what
done was
had to
tried
be
to
done
find an
back
area
then.
where we would have minimal amount of capital and work to put into it to make it usable that would be ADA accessible.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Don, just so I'm clear, sir, this is a town DIY project, correct? That will cost $100,000. Or are we bidding this out, or is somebody else doing it?
We are not going to do the project.
Okay.
The scope of the project is
Okay.
beyond what we're capable of doing.
All right. So
Or what we're
the
managed to
town's,
do.
this is not a DIY town project.
This is our brainstorm.
Okay.
Our head
Glad
rush
I
on what
asked
we
this.
can do, to try to fulfill the wishes of the board and make it an area that can be used as a walking area for the citizens. Is that what we came up with?
So this is going to have to be bidded out to a contractor
Yes.
to put in, which is going to be an additional period of time.
Yes, sir.
And we know how additional period of time has been. 100,000, and that's your estimate's 100,000.
Yes, sir. And I'll, we have to take it a step at a time, though.
Gotcha.
I can't be skipping processes because if, a prior one comes back with a negative answer, then we're hosed.
All right.
Commissioner Bellflowers?
That's what I have, I
Commissioner
think.
Bellflowers?
Yes.
Can you point to the 3 entrances that McAdams has on there?
Yep. We have one is parallel
I think that's where we should do our
to the
driveway.
existing.
Why wouldn't we do
One
it?
is fairway,
in-
and the other one is down before you get to the curb.
It's temporary, but it could be made permanent at a later date, the first one, when you and I walked,
The original.
the original one that runs
It's parallel to the one that's there now.
Yeah, because that would be basically where the other one's going to go once the park is developed anyways. So why would we cut a road just to have it?
Because the end result, ma'am, was not, the goal was not to cut a road. The goal was to make an area
Right, to
that
make
was
a temporary
ADA
dri-
accessible.
Yeah, I
To make
understand.
an area that's
But you're
ADA
basically
accessible.
then later down the road, because it is a temporary driveway, this would be at least in a temporary driveway in a permanent location for a driveway.
How about if I do this? How do I check with Rachel and
Maybe she
see?
could do it that way.
And maybe she can adjust her plan
That would be
to
fantastic.
make our plan more.
Well,
That would be,
that circles back on my first question. Was this plan of Rachel shared with DOT? And are we looking at this thing in a collaborative format?
But you're mixing fruits.
Maybe. Well, maybe. But when we're talking about 100,000 taxpayer dollars, that's a lot of fruit.
Mhm.
Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
That's a lot of fruit. Now, Melissa, and you've reached out to Mr. I think his name is George.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mister George. I haven't met this man. I've heard a lot about him. And he has not returned any phone calls.
No.
You've made no contact with him at all.
The wife has indicated that he is not interested in any type of a sharing partnership of the
Okay, his wife said that, but not him.
Parking lot.
Okay.
And
he shares ownership of his property with another man. Is that correct?
It's a business, so.
I think he shares ownership with that property with another person.
LLC.
Yeah, it's an LLC.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think we should keep in mind that when we start to put these driveways in, that DOT may have islands down the middle of Gulfview Road. So when you come out of there, you're going to have to come right toward the fire station. But how far you're going to have to go up Gulfview Road to turn around to come back to get into the golf course?
They're not widening there
No, they're not.
yet. But
So I'm saying
that's 20.
That's the reason I think we might have to put the bill and put a red light at Fairway, or at,
Eventually, yeah.
what's that street?
Fairway.
Fairway Drive.
Fairway Drive, right in the middle. Yep.
That would be the most economical, in my opinion, that we could do. So is there a way that we can put a temporary entrance to the golf course there?
One of the problems that we're going to have at Fairway is that is an outfall for a significant amount of stormwater coming off of Eaglewood.
Yeah. You can look. You can see the erosion that's there now.
Well, it's going to have some kind of pipe under the driveway anyway, isn't it, when it's built?
It's possible. One of the, I can't tell you with 100% certainty, but Commissioner Larson, one of the reasons that we didn't look at going any further down either side was as a cost savings measure, because we know that where we wanted to do it was essentially the peak of the road. If we go up or down the road, then the first thing we have to deal with is the stormwater, and then the second thing we have to deal with is utilities, because there is fiber optic water that go right through there. And if we were to put it up at the top, we might have to scrape a little bit of dirt but not get down to the utilities. If we put it down towards the other ends, there's a good chance that we're going to have to bear the burden of moving utilities.
I understand that.
Don, it's fair to say that if we put the temporary at Fairway Drive, it's going to cost a lot more than $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, sir.
A lot more. And we'll have to signal
just the
it.
stormwater alone.
And we'll have to signal it. And we'll have to do turn lanes. Mm-hmm. So even though it's in play on the master plan, it's not in play for what we're looking at in the short term. It's cost prohibitive.
Commissioner Edwards has asked to speak.
I'm done.
May I speak?
Yes, you may. I think I'm done now.
Thank you. I almost forgot what I was going to say now. Out of curiosity, just for my own appeasement, we're spending $100,000 plus on something temporary. What would that $100,000 do for something permanent at Heritage Park?
That's a good question.
It would be significant.
It would be.
We could get the pads poured, the gates moved and mounted, and we probably with that actually get them sandblasted and treated, and still have a little bit of money left over maybe to work on the pump house and do a little bit more work on the fencing and the pathways right there.
Well, it seems like, to me, with the phases 1, 2, and 3 that we went through, we need to prioritize and go by what we've already planned instead of spending all that money for something temporary. That's my opinion.
It's all a hot mess. And I'm sorry, I created the storm this has become, as I made the motion in 2013 to mark all of our properties posted if they posed a threat the safety of our citizens, and until then, our citizens were using those properties anyway. And truth be told, citizens are still using that property. That's 92 acres of land. It's the size of Hope Mills Lake and golf course, and you got thousands and thousands of residents that live on the borders of the old golf course that can easily walk there in a matter of minutes. We just don't have a way of policing it or whatever, because we don't have any rights to that parking lot, other than parking out by the road. Now we know that that's legal. But I apologize to the citizens for even making that motion in 2013. Before I knew it, everything was posted in the town, and that was not my intent.
Mike, people use it every weekend.
Now we got a hot mess
They
trying to figure out how to get the citizens to be able to use the same property again.
Yeah, they're using it every weekend
Every
anyways.
weekend they use it. There were people down there Sunday. They use it every weekend.
Right.
There are people that just go up there, they park, they picnic, they share it with their dogs, their kids. They just use it.
That's right. I saw somebody fishing on Rockfish Creek below the dam on the posted property.
But we should have our own
having a
parking
good
lot.
day.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so what action? What do we do?
So
where
you're going to reach out to Mick Adams and ask her about?
Yep.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you, sir. Sorry to put you on the spot, but appreciate your help.
Thank you, Don.
All right, next we have our manager's report.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Johnson Street sidewalk, 65% plans have been reviewed by NCDOT, and red line changes have been forwarded to McGill Engineering to implement changes in the 90% drawings. Received document review from the State Historic Preservation Office and posted to NCDOT. PWC projects drawing review completion this week, the week of April the 1st. McGill and Associates is working on the environmental assessment for DOT review, and we are still working through CSX right-of-way issues with their utility and site improvement divisions. The projected let date is May 21st, 2019. Rockfish Road sidewalk, the contractor is ready to mobilize, waiting for survey scheduling. Town Hall HVAC system, Bass Heating and Air was on site today, April the 1st. They are working on drawing down the system for replacement. Episcopal Church Parish House, I have received confirmation that Mr. Jeff Adolphson, the NCDNCR, State Historic Preservation Office Restoration Specialist for Cumberland County, will be here on Tuesday, April the 9th at 5:30 p.m. to conduct his inspection of the Episcopal Parish House. The former golf course property was the location for Hurricane Florence temporary debris. That site has been cleaned up. The cleanup has been completed, and the deactivation certification has been received from the state DEQ office. Adcock Cemetery, as previously reported to you, the Latter-day Saints Youth Group established their community service project date at Adcock Cemetery as May 11th. We are working with PWC to run a water line and a spigot to the cemetery. Spigot will be permanent for maintenance use. Recently, I spoke to Mr. Bill Bowman regarding the 2019 Up-and-Coming Weeklies Pocket Guide. The 2019 Pocket Guide was printed last year and available for distribution late 2018. The Pocket Guide includes a page with the Town of Hope Mills 2018-2020 elected officials' contact information, along with town manager, town clerk, police chief, and fire chief. Mr. Bowman indicated this was complimentary and was done as a courtesy for the citizens. There is no fee for the inclusion of the town's information. I have confirmed with Finance Director Drew Holland that we have not been billed. The information under the town clerk incorrectly lists Deborah Holland, not Jane Starling, as the town clerk, and the home telephone number included for Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell is incorrect. A reminder that Citizens Academy begins tomorrow, Tuesday, April the 2nd at 6 p.m. here at Town Hall. The first food truck rodeo for 2019 is this Thursday, April the 4th from 5 to 8 behind Town Hall. Spring Sports Opening Day ceremonies and Gary Dove Day is Saturday, April the 6th, beginning at 9 a.m. at Brower Park. Breakfast with the Bunny begins at 8:30 a.m. and runs until 11 a.m. at the Parks and Rec Center, followed by the Easter egg hunt at Hope Mills Municipal Park. And the annual Household Hazardous Waste Collection and Shred event is scheduled for Saturday, May the 4th, and I have provided you with a copy of the postcard that will be mailed out approximately 2 to 3 weeks prior to the event. And that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the other events that are coming up, the Board of Adjustment meeting is April 15th at 6 p.m. The Mayor's Youth Leadership is going to be moved to the May, first meeting in May, which is the May 6th meeting.
Okay.
And they're going to meet with the Festival Committee and get involved with some of the events and also get involved with the May 4th cleanup. And then, of course, our next meeting is April 15th. And then we have Good Friday holiday, April the 19th. The committee liaison updates, and if you've had a meeting, then we need an update. If there wasn't one, then it's not necessary. The first would be Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell with Historic Preservation Commission and Municipal Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Historic Preservation Commission met on March 13th, I believe it was. And they talked about the parish house. Town Manager Adams contacted State Historian Specialist, Mr. Adolphison. She already updated us, I guess, on that part, that he will be coming out to help with the inspection of the parish house. And there was a museum update. Town staff is continuing to work on the building as time allows. Design to build architecture drawings have been received by the commission, who has requested minor changes to work out with the architect. And RFQs to be issued in the near future. I don't know if that's been done yet, RFQs. Breakdown of the proposed funding for the fiscal year 2019-20 was provided. Hope Mill staff is to contact the NC State and NCA and TSU to gauge their interest in making the proposed idea for the parking lot along Rockfish Creek. I think that was a suggestion by Commission member Mason Steele behind Eric Rayner's office. I think that was the area they were talking about specifically, talking about a senior project for them. Also, the certified local government designation. Of course, we're getting updates continuing on that. Town staff has contacted Amber Stetson, who's indicated she'll be willing to come meet with the commission after May to answer any questions related to the adoption of the historic district. And I think that's all I had with the Historic Preservation Commission. We talked about some of this at the last meeting. And then also we had our Municipal Advisory Coalition meeting on March 15th with the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Development Corporation. I was in attendance along with Town Manager Adams and our planner, Chancellor McLaughlin. And we had a good meeting. It was just kind of an introductory kind of thing, inaugural, I guess. And all the local municipalities were there, Spring Lake, Wade, and Eastover, and some other, Falcon, some of the surrounding areas. And we just kind of collaborated, talking about basically what the needs of our local areas were, the municipalities, and how we could work together. And Robert Van Giens had mentioned maybe even getting a grant that could be allocated among all the municipalities for different projects. And I think they've decided to meet perhaps bi-monthly, depending on when the mayor's coalition meeting is. They didn't want to conflict with those particular months. And overall, it was a very good meeting, and went through a lot of planning and maps on the slides, and as we're approving, as we are adding to our town limits with the annexation, if we can keep them in the loop, I'm sure Chancellor's taken care of a lot of that already. So, but overall, it was a great meeting.
Okay. Next, we have Commissioner Edwards with the Lake Advisory Committee and Mid-Carolina Aging Advisory Council.
The Lake Advisory Committee did meet, and they have a full, all the members were present. They elected their new officers. They were trying to come up with new ideas and things that the Lake Advisory should do. And they mentioned since the Heritage Park is part of the lake, they'd like to get involved in that. And then they were instructed that that is part of the historical area, and they couldn't get involved there. So they really haven't decided yet what they're going to do. They were supposed to send me copies of the agenda, and I haven't yet to receive them. As far as the Mid-Carolina Division of Aging, we are trying to work together, and hopefully before too long we can get with the town as to how we can more or less get more involved with Mid-Carolina and help with grants and how they can help out our senior group. But I talked to Casey, but we haven't worked out anything yet. So we'll get our next update. We only meet once a quarter, but in the meantime, we're having little special meetings. So I'll update you next.
Okay. All right. Next, we have Commissioner Legg with the Parents Committee and the Festival Committee.
I didn't have a parents committee, but we had a meeting tonight of the Lake Festival Committee, and they discussed several different things that they would like to do, but some of them were depending upon what happened with moving forward to Lake Bulkhead. So now they'll know what they can do this year and what they can't do. There's going to be a Good Friday service right here. What's the date of Friday before Easter?
Easter Sunday is the 21st, 19th, is that
19th?
Yeah,
It's 19th.
Yeah, it's the
There'll be
19th. We're closed that day.
Yeah, there'll be a Good Friday service right next door at
It will
the
be
gazebo.
the Good Friday service will be down at the First Baptist Church.
Oh, yeah, I told you so right here.
No, the sunrise service will be here on Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday.
Sorry,
Okay.
I wrote it down wrong. Sunrise service will be here. Discussion of a solar plunge in February.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That ought to wake somebody up.
Oh, yeah. I'm down for that.
As part of the celebration as we had last year. And maybe have it set up to where it can be a fundraiser. Like I said earlier in there, you could take a dip for your Valentine's and pay a small fee. They're also in the process of collecting sponsorships to help do some of the things that committee wants to do. And Mr. Mitchell's in charge of all that, Gurley Mitchell. So if anybody knows anyone who wants to sponsor some of the stuff, get up with him or our Parks and Recreation Department. And remember the farmers market is going to be May 4th, and I believe that's going to be right here in front of the building. And we got time for that yet. And don't forget opening day this coming Saturday, Gary Dove Day. I hope to see everybody there. Police chief's going to have a nightmare because of Parks and Recreation's having a Easter egg hunts and breakfast with the bunny, and the Youth Association and Parks and Rec's going to be having opening day ceremonies for baseball. That's all I have except to welcome Mr. Morrison. I hope Hope everything goes well for you, sir. Welcome to Hope Mills. Be looking forward to working with you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Larson?
Parks and Rec did meet. They had their presentation with McAdams, which was the same presentation that we had. Lasted close to 2 hours, and then followed by the public input. There were 16 people that came to public input.
16.
16. I went back after our meeting here to see how many signed up. So 16 people.
16.
It's kind of disappointing, to say the least. But I'll be interested to see Parks and Rec's take on the presentation at our next meeting, but we did not have that type of meeting. It was more of just presentation.
Okay. Commissioner Bellflowers, the Veterans Committee, and RULAC?
RULAC will meet in May, so that will be the next RULAC meeting. The Veterans Affairs Committee met last Thursday, and I'm just going to go down through the list because it's a little bit lengthy. The Veterans Outreach Day, May 3rd, is a go. It's fully sponsored, and a number of agencies will be here to take care of veterans and advise veterans. The next issue was painting of the artillery piece. That's being coordinated through Fort Bragg. The next issue is our first Heroes Homecoming meeting is April 12th at the library, and that's coming up where the municipalities will talk about this year's theme. The committee is recommending our theme be as a final salute and tribute to the 75th anniversary, and we call it Normandy 75. It is a nationwide tribute to our, I get a little choked up here when I think about this, our World War II veterans 75 years ago. And during this time, we will definitely research and recognize those that served from the Hope Mills area like we did last Veterans Day for World War I. We plan to do that. They also talked about the Veteran Family Volunteer of the Year. That's being planned now for, I guess, to be awarded somewhere around Veterans Day. And so there's going to be some nominations that will come from that. Upcoming Memorial Day program, the committee is working with the VFW and American Legion. Again, it's going to be a joint Memorial Day program as we've done in the recent programs. With that said, though, the committee would like a nameplate to be added to the monument on behalf of Jim Clark. So the committee recommends that the town pay for a nameplate for Jim Clark. That recommendation was given to Megan, and I think she was supposed to come back to you, Melissa, and Drew, and Cindy with that recommendation from the committee. But it's to honor him, like we've done in the past with former Mayor Al Bradford, and most recently Mayor Pro Tem Bob Gorman. So we want to honor Jim Clark on Memorial Day and with the nameplate. Next issue was vacancies. There's the committee stated there was one vacancy on the committee, and it hasn't been filled in several months, and the committee wanted to know what the status of that vacancy was, and I told them that the nominating committee is meeting tomorrow. Correct, Mayor?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock tomorrow. It's to consider all vacancies for the committees, and it is open to the public. All of our committee meetings are open to the public, so 11 o'clock tomorrow for that one.
Commissioner Belfast, usually let's meet right here when you come in the door.
Yeah.
There, I don't know what it's called now. It used to be the commissioner's room or
Commissioner's
Yeah,
office.
still the commissioner's room.
It's 11 o'clock tomorrow. It's open to the public, and that's what I told the committee. I think there's some applications that the committee will look at and make a nomination at our next meeting, April, what is it? 18th. The last issue, let me make sure I got them all. Yeah. The last issue was with regarding Facebook. And right now, there's a tremendous amount of information coming in for the Facebook page. It was established. The committee unanimously recommended that admin rights be granted to Jim Morris, who is the committee PAO, along with the senior chair of the committee, Jim Blevins, to assist Megan in the posting of, and it is a tremendous amount of information that goes on the Veterans Affairs Committee Facebook page. So I'm going to ask the board, and I'll make a motion that we give these two individuals admin rights to post items on the Facebook page. And those two names would be Jim Blevins and Jim Morris. And of course, if there's anything that happens, they can always be removed. But I think that other committees, and I may be wrong, but I may be right too, other committees have admin rights granted to other people on that committee to post different things. So I ask the board tonight to please approve these two veterans of our community admin rights to the Facebook page. That is my motion, Mayor.
Okay, I have a motion. Any discussion?
How many other committees have that privilege?
I'm not aware.
I don't know.
They're a
I'm not-
commission,
I'm not aware of any.
Historic Preservation Commission does.
Well, yeah, they've.
Who does, Mr. Mitchell?
We don't have any rights with the Historical Preservation Commission. We don't administer that. They do. They created their own. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it myself.
Okay, I'm not going to do it. I think that the town should administer all social media sites for each committee. It has nothing to do with this particular committee. It's with any committee. I think that they should.
Okay, have a motion on the floor.
Why don't we, why can't because you can have dual admins that, I think the problem is sometimes folks leave and then when town has no rights to take over the Facebook page. And we could check with the Historic Preservation
But
Commission.
doesn't the town have rights now to the Veterans page?
Yeah.
Yeah, the town's doing
Yeah.
it, so all they're
Yeah, we
asking
do.
is to have them to
Oh,
be
yeah,
able
it
to
is.
add
Yeah.
it into.
On the veterans.
town controls it, and you can also take down things
Yeah.
that you might not want there, I'm
It's just
assuming.
assisting Megan.
Yeah.
Who, you know, and we know what she does every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
It's just assisting her on posting veteran information. That's all it is.
No problem. Sorry about that.
All right, we have a motion to allow the two admins to help with the Veterans page. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, so it's 3-2, so we can move
Thank you.
forward with that one. Thank you.
That's the last issue from the Veterans Affairs Committee meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
I attended Fort Bragg Town Hall meeting, and this is something that I'm very glad that I got to go to, and I'll be going once a month. This meeting is for information for veterans and for active duty, and they give you the calendars of the month of what's taking place. I brought back all of my information and gave it to Mr. Grilly Mitchell so that he could use that as far as postings on the veterans page.
Oh, yeah.
Very informative and lots of good information. The representative was there from the Federal Woodpeckers that talked about the partnership they're doing with Fort Bragg and actually gave away a set of tickets there so that the people that were in attendance got some good information. And then Parks and Rec from Cumberland County was there, Federal Cumberland County, and what they did was gave out information as far as the youth teams and programs. So it's very informative, but I did bring back my information because the contact in your town should be that contact that has most most contact with the veterans or with active duty, and so that's a good site for it to go to. On March 27th, I attended FAMPO, and at that time, of course, most of you probably don't know, but as a member of FAMPO, you have to do your ethics with the state, and that was one of the first things they reminded us of, was that we had to submit all of our information to the state, and I had already done mine, but that was one of the main topics, along with the plan that we had seen here, the 2045 plan, and there was the movement on moving forward with it. And then just the other was information as far as the quality air committee, talking about submissions for calendars and other events coming up. But those were the main two things. Mayor's Coalition, which you mentioned, our next Mayor's Coalition meeting is May the 3rd. So that will be the next one coming up, and that is a Friday, the same day as the Veterans event. Hopefully I'll be able to do both. Next we have staff comments. I'll start with Ms. Starling. Do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
And I want to thank you again for attending FAMPO with me. I think it's a very good opportunity for our staff to see what's happening there and to see the role that I play. Ms. Adams?
The only additional thing that, and he's not here tonight, so I really wanted to do a more public recognition for Maxie Dove, to thank him for everything that he did. He really stepped up and served as interim Parks and Rec director. So I'm hoping that maybe at the next meeting we can try to get him back here, maybe quietly, not let him know why, but to do a more formal recognition. You know, I really want to make sure that he knows how much we appreciate it.
You know how to do that. Just have Mr. Morrison tell him he can't be
You have
there,
to be at
he
the
has to
meeting.
stand
Yes, there you go.
Hopefully he doesn't
And
want
don't
you to.
tell him why.
He won't be watching Duke or Carolina play.
Right.
Yep.
Anything from our attorney? Okay, official comments. I'll start with Commissioner Bellflowers. Do you have anything more to add?
Couple things. I want to recognize our former police chief Hodges, who is in attendance with us tonight. I want to acknowledge that he's here. Second thing, and this goes to Lamar. As we discuss this golf course over the next coming month, I would really appreciate hearing your thoughts coming in on what your thoughts are with the golf course plan of what we've talked about tonight. I really would. So I really greatly would appreciate your expertise of weighing in on the golf course plan along with the part of grant, if you would, sir. And lastly, Mayor, I just want to give a shout out, I guess, to a very nice event on Friday night, the Chamber of Commerce banquet. It was the Black and White Masquerade, and it was full. It was quite a robust event, I must say. Well, one of the better ones, of course, I haven't been there in a little bit of time, but it was a lot of our businesses that were there. It was a great event, and I truly wish, this is just my opinion, I truly wish that there was a closer partnership between us and the Chamber. I truly do. Something like the city has with the Fayetteville Chamber. I just really, really do. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
I too would like to welcome Mr. Morrison. And prayers. No, you're going to do great. You really are. And you have a good group of people to work with. And I'd like to welcome Chief Hodges back again. And there was one other thing I was going to say, but, senior moment, I can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah. Thank you. The banquet that we had is the shortest banquet that I have ever been to. It only lasted about 3 hours because everybody started clearing off tables about 10 minutes till 9 to get home and watch the Duke and Carolina games.
Yep.
So that,
Yep.
everybody just took off.
I think it was Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina first.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Then it was Duke.
That's right. And Richard Jr. That's all.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell?
Yeah, Gary Dove was a very special person to our town. I was fortunate enough to get to go to a couple Duke games with Maxie, and when Gary wasn't able to attend because of his health. And so I'll be wearing my Duke hat and my Duke shirt, and I would encourage all y'all to wear the same, even if you're Carolina fans, in honor of Gary Dove. I know he'd be looking down from heaven, and he would really appreciate that and have a good laugh, especially for Commissioner Legg, if that was to happen. I was also reminded today by Town Manager Adams that we do have an Adopt a Town Street kind of type of program. Miss April Fields contacted me, and I got in touch with Town Manager Adams, and we do have that in town. DOT has theirs, and we have ours. And that can be signed up if you know, our streets look terrible.
Mr. Ira Peterson.
And there's a sign-up sheet over in the street department, and Mr. Ira Peterson, you said, for contact on that. Also, actually forgot that Mike Seals had mentioned who's involved, is a big asset to our town in our Parks and Rec Committee, that there's a land water conservation fund that we could possibly contact about upfitting our parks through NC State, and I'll get that information over to you, or you can ask Mr. Seals as well. That's another source, and I'm sure that Mr. Morrison has extensive knowledge of some of these grants for our Parks and Rec, and besides that, he graduated from Pine Forest like I did, so he's got to be a great guy, right? So I became aware in my position with my firm, I was became aware that President Trump signed a Veterans Benefits and Transition Act of 2018. He signed it on December 31st, 18. And this thing is so, it's gotten no press at all. I reached out to the North Carolina Association of CPAs. They had no knowledge of it. They got in contact with North Carolina Department of Revenue, and the North Carolina Department of Revenue is going to give information on this in May after tax season. So in your Veterans Outreach, and I'll be glad to attend that. That's May 3rd, right?
May 3rd.
But now this is for active duty military.
Yeah.
Before this, we had the Spousal Relief Act under President Obama, but it was much more stringent for our active duty spouses. That basically you had to meet your spouse before in the enlistment date to claim the same state. But now those restrictions have been pulled. So if your spouse is if your active duty military spouse is a resident of Florida or Tennessee or Texas, where there is no state tax, they get a full refund of their North Carolina taxes, whether they're self-employed or employee status. And I'll be glad to provide you some more information on that, Commissioner Bellfire's. Even though I know it's a lot of retirees, but there might be some active duty folks in there for the outreach. So, but that's all I have. So.
Okay. Commissioner Larson, thank you for coming out, and I'll see you this weekend. Commissioner Legg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I am very glad that we're honoring Gary Dove Saturday. He was one of the men in town that I respected the most, and the others sitting on the back row back there. Former Police Chief John Hodges. Again, I welcome you, Mr. Morrison, to the town to work with our staff. And Mike, I heard on the news before I came down here that Michigan State had an ineligible player, and Duke's going to the final.
Yeah.
Figured he is. April Fool.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
April Fool.
And I'd just like to mention that I went to the John Dove J.D. Pone Recreation Center dedication on Saturday. A large amount of, not just our community, Hope Mills community, but community from all over that knew the family. It was all the county commissioners were there. Some of the legislative delegation was there. But the important thing was that the contributions that he made, not only as a fireman, but as involved with youth sports, and the people, the coaches that had been former athletes under him. It was a good ceremony. So I just, again, want to remind you that we do have, Grays Creek has got Hope Mills addresses. They think they're in Hope Mills, even though they're not actually in Hope Mills. But Mr. Pone was a a great asset to our community. And with that,
Motion to adjourn.
have a motion to adjourn. Everyone have a great rest of the week. We'll see you on Saturday.
Seems like my job.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ask Jerry, what time would you like us down there? Jerry, what time would you like us down there?
You're going to
Is there a time that you wanted us down there?
If that's something
Well,
that she
yeah,
can
yeah.
adjust her plan, if that would be feasible.